Good morning and welcome to the City Planning Commission public meeting. Madam Secretary, time to go.
Good morning. This is the City Planning Commission public meeting held at NYC City Planning Commission hearing room, Lower Concourse, 120 Broadway. Today is Wednesday, March 27, 2019. As a courtesy during the proceedings, we ask that you please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices. All speakers should fill out a speaker's card. In addition, we ask that those providing testimony please identify yourself, limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and speak clearly into the microphone. I will now call the roll. Chair Lago.
Here.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Capelli.
Here.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Here.
Commissioner Delaus.
Here.
Commissioner Dweck.
Here.
Commissioner Edie. Commissioner Knight.
Here.
Commissioner Levin.
Here.
Commissioner Marin. Commissioner Ortiz.
Here.
Commissioner Rampachet.
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, March 13, 2019.
On the minutes, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The minutes are adopted.
Scheduling on calendar number 1, we have a resolution for adoption scheduling Wednesday, April 10th, 2019 for a public hearing to be held at NYC City Planning Commission hearing room, Lower Concourse, 120 Broadway.
On the resolutions, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The resolutions are adopted.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 6. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 2 through 5. Calendar number 2, CD3, C10160HAK. Calendar number 3, C190161ZMK. Calendar number 4, N190162ZRK. Calendar number 5, C190163HUK. In the matter of applications for a UDAP designation, project approval, disposition of city-owned property, zoning map and zoning text amendments, and amendment to the Saratoga Square Urban Renewal Plan concerning 1921 Atlantic Avenue. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 2 through 5, Madam Chair, excuse me, Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delaus.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin. Sorry. Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 6, CD8, C190181, PQK. In the matter of an application for the acquisition of property concerning 813 Sterling Place. For a favorable report on calendar number 6, Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delaus.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet. A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 6. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 7, CD5, C190182, PQK. In the matter of an application for the acquisition of property concerning 370 New Lots Avenue. For a favorable report on calendar number 7, Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delaus.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 7. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 8, CD2, N190254PXK. In the matter of a notice of intent to acquire office space for property located at 12 Metrotech. For a favorable report on calendar number 8. Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delaus.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 8. Borough of Queens, calendar number 9, CD7, N190255PXQ. In the matter of a notice of intent to acquire office space concerning the Taxi and Limousine Commission. For a favorable report on calendar number 9, Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delaus.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet? A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 9. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 10, CD1 N190068ZCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 23, 35, and 51 Cedar Cliff Road for adoption on calendar number 10. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Calendar number 10 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 11, CD3 N190243 RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 85, 87, and 89 Connecticut Street for adoption on calendar number 11. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz? Commissioner Rampachet? Calendar number 11 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 12, CD3 N190240 RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 450 and 440 Eltonville Boulevard for adoption on calendar number 12. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet? Calendar number 12 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 13 through 17. Calendar number 13, CD1 N190105 ZAR. Calendar number 14, N190106 ZAR. Calendar number 15, N190107 ZAR. Calendar number 16, N190108 ZAR. Calendar number 17, N190109 ZAR. In the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations concerning 43 and 47 Cecilia Court for adoption on calendar number 13 through 17. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin? Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Calendar numbers 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 have been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 18 and 19. Calendar number 18, CD3 N190041 RCR. Calendar number 19, N190246 RCR. In the matter of applications for the grant of certifications concerning 99 Seacrest Avenue. For adoption on calendar numbers 18 and 19. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Calendar numbers 18 and 19 have been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 20 and 21. Calendar number 20, CD3 N190190 RCR. Calendar number 21, N190192 RCR. In the matter of applications for the grant of certifications concerning 93 Manny Avenue for adoption on calendar numbers 20 and 21. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet? Calendar numbers 20 and 21 have been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 22, CD3 N190099 RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 170 Edge Grove Avenue for adoption on calendar number 22. Chair Lago.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet. Calendar number 22 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 23 and 24. Calendar number 23, CD1 N190057, ZAR. Excuse me. Calendar number 24, N190058, ZAR, in the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations concerning 636 Howard Avenue for adoption on calendar numbers 23 and 24. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Calendar numbers 23 and 24 have been adopted. Let's turn to the supplemental calendar. Borough of Manhattan, calendar numbers 1 and 2. Calendar number 1 has been withdrawn. Calendar number 2, CD5 N190180A ZRM, in the matter of an application for the zoning text amendment concerning 270 Park Avenue. For a favorable report as modified on calendar number 2, Chair Lago,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Recused.
Okay. Commissioner Delauss.
Yes, and I appreciate the applicant's modifications.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Now, I just want to note that it seems to me that this is really a textbook example of how the public review process is supposed to work and how the advisory roles of a community board and a borough president can be used to shape an application in a very positive way. Rather than working to get to a no position, they've worked to get to a yes. And I think this public space is going to be significantly better than what was originally proposed. And it's also great that the applicant was willing to work on this one more time. This is an enormously challenging project. But with that, I vote yes. ULURP is not broken.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet.
Yes.
A favorable report as modified has been adopted on calendar number 2. The next part of the calendar is a public hearing section on page 20. Borough of the Bronx, calendar numbers 25 through 28. Calendar number 25, CD1, C190207, ZMX. Calendar number 26, C190208, PPX. Calendar number 27, N190209, ZRX. Calendar number 28, C190210, ZSX. A public hearing in the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments, disposition of city-owned property, and for the grant of a special permit concerning Brook 156.
We're going to have a 10-minute presentation by an applicant team comprised of Kay Rao, Michael Wadman, Jen Swatala, and available for questioning, William Stein.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Kay Rao, representing HPD, the lead co-applicant, along with Phipps Houses. We're here to present you, thank you, with a proposed new development located at the corner of East 156th Street and Brook Avenue, known as Brook 156. The development site's made up of 2 adjacent tax lots, Lot 1 and 3. Lot 1 is a formerly abandoned railroad trench that is already owned by Phipps Houses, and Lot 3 is a small triangular city-owned lot. The city is willing to convey the city-owned property to Phipps because combined with their adjacent property, it creates a larger assemblage to create more affordable housing. With this assemblage, Brook 156 will be able to provide 54 units of affordable rental housing, plus a superintendent's unit and a new 9-story building with ground floor community facility space. The railroad was put out of use in 1999 when the tunnel could no longer support contemporary train cars and the new Oak Point Link was opened. It was formally abandoned in 2003 and the state released its rights to use the right-of-way for future transportation uses in 2005. So for years, the trench has been filled with trash and has been a site for some less desirable uses. So this development seeks to remove that blight and activate the streetscape along Brook Avenue. The ULIP actions that are part of this application are the disposition of city-owned property, a zoning map amendment to rezone the development site from R72 to a C62 to allow for additional density that's consistent with the surrounding area, a zoning text amendment to designate the property as mandatory inclusionary housing area, and a special permit to allow development over a former rail right-of-way. So I'll now turn it over to the development team.
All right, so we really, here is the project location. It is located just north of Via Verde. As Kay mentioned, here's the tax proposed zoning information and the tax lot. So again, just north of Via Verde on Brook Avenue and East 156th Street. So we really envision this building as two interlocking volumes, one expressed in a dark brick and the other in a lighter color brick. The volumes then form a front entry courtyard, and it sits on a base of a glazed bright orange brick, which extends around the base of the whole building. The orange accent is then continued in the color of the window frames and louvers, and is also incorporated on the north and east facades in a mosaic-like pattern to sort of create some more interest along both of these facades. So on the right-hand side, on the view looking west, you can see this, the orange glazed brick coming up on the facade, and then also on the north facade, so the image on the left. One thing that we wanted to do was really enliven the ground floor. So as Kay had mentioned, we have a community facility space that's located on the corner of Brook and East 156th Street. We also incorporated a community room, a fitness room, and the laundry room on the ground floor. One of the sort of constraints that we have with this building was that due to the size of the lot, we were constrained to design a single loaded corridor, which made us place the units primarily on Brook Avenue and East 156th Street. This meant that we were limited to the amount of windows that we could place on the east facade, which you can see here on the typical floor plan. Here is a view of the interior lobby, which is situated right off of the court that's created with a landscape planting. So as I mentioned, the ground floor features a community room, fitness room, community facility, and laundry room. The building will be designed to perform at 15% better than the current energy code per the Enterprise Green Community requirements. It will also feature low flow plumbing fixtures, Energy Star appliances, as well as a well-insulated building envelope and solar panels on the roof and bulkhead roof. And now I will turn it over to Michael.
Thank you, Commissioners. Talking a little bit more about program after Jen's summary of design, this will be, as Kay said, MIH option 1, but the building will be 100% income restricted through HPD's ELA program. We'll have households at 30, 40, 50, 60, and 80% of median. We'll also have the homeless set aside that all HPD projects have these days. We're proposing a 15% set aside rather than 10, in keeping with some of the discussions going on about increasing that set aside. Residential amenities, as Kay mentioned, laundry, community room, fitness room, pretty good set of stuff for a building of this size. About 35% of the units are larger family units. That's a little low for FIPS, although not for the market in general. And that was really driven by the tiny footprint here and the desire to fit as many good units as we could. We're also going to do outreach to senior citizens in the Bronx in order to try to encourage applications, especially for the smaller units. How does that work? Sorry. I'm technologically incompetent, sorry. This is a more specific unit distribution and showing the ranges on affordability. We're still working through with HPD and their upcoming revised term sheets to see how the specific income levels should play out here. And as you know, the City Council is very interested in affordability as well, so we'll talk in more detail to Councilmember Salamanca and try to reconcile these to provide the kind of unit distribution we're talking about. But we're showing you ranges and the income levels that we'll be serving. And that's another picture again. I think we can answer questions.
Questions from the commission. Commissioner Deleuze.
I just want to say that I think you guys have done a very good job of maximizing a relatively small space. I'm just curious, how long has Phipps owned the right-of-way?
So we've owned the parcel since 2010, I believe it was. We purchased it as part of the Via Verde acquisition. You know, this railroad trench that I'm sure you have seen before that goes through this section of the Bronx. There was a very long debate about who was going to pay for closing the tunnels that are across the various streets there. That was eventually resolved. Our transaction with the original buyer was that either we would figure out a way to close this bridge so he could develop the site, or we'd simply buy the site from him and figure it out ourselves. So the latter is what ended up happening. It took quite a while to figure out, as you can see, by 2019 versus 2009.
A good outcome, even despite the fact that it took so long.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is a major focus for Phipps too, I should say. Melrose is one of the main neighborhoods that we operate in. We have a couple thousand apartments here, as well as the building across the street. We are constructing a building 2 blocks in the other direction and have units throughout Melrose and Bronxchester.
If I might, do you have an intended use for the community facility space?
Yeah, we're hoping that we'll do some kind of workforce development. Our social service affiliate, Phipps Neighborhoods, intends to occupy it. It's not a very big space, but we think some level of program could be done there that would be effective.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Okay, thank you to the applicant team.
Thank you very much.
Those are the only people who have signed up to speak on this item, but if anyone is interested in being heard, now come forward. Okay, this public hearing is closed.
Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 29 and 30. Calendar number 29, CD3, C180292, ZMK. Calendar number 30, N180293, ZRK. A public hearing in the matter of applications for a zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 2 Howard Avenue rezoning.
We'll have a 10-minute presentation by an applicant team comprised of Stephen Sinacori and Lisa Arancia.
Madam Chair, I'm recused from this matter.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, Lisa Orantia for the applicant from Ackerman LLP. Sorry, my colleague Steve Sinacori couldn't be here today, so I'll be presenting. This is an application for a zoning map amendment to rezone 3 tax lots from R6B with a C24 overlay to a C44L district. That's an R7A equivalent, and also a zoning text amendment to designate the rezoning area as a mandatory inclusionary housing area. The project site location is on the west block front of Howard Avenue between Monroe and Madison Streets in Stuyvesant, in Bedford-Stuyvesant. The project area is about 20,000 square feet, and it's adjacent to a broad intersection where Monroe Street and Howard Avenue, each are 70 feet wide, meet the 80-foot wide Broadway. The development site is the corner lot highlighted in red. It's a vacant lot, 8,000 square feet in size. Next door is lot 39. It's a 4-story building used by a fraternal organization, and the ground floor was recently changed to a grocery store use. And on the opposite corner to the development site is 16 Howard Avenue. It's a 4-story apartment building. And I'll note that the 2 non-development sites within the rezoning area, the middle lot is slightly overbuilt. It has about 2.09 FAR, and the corner lot is overbuilt at 3.83 FAR, and this is a zoning district that allows 2 FAR. Here's a view of the project site location. Again, you see the development site on the corner and the two 4-story buildings within the rezoning area. The area map shows you that the area is developed with single and multi-family buildings, public facilities, and you see there's a retail corridor along Broadway with the JMZ elevated subway lines. And then opposite the development site is a 6-story high school. Here's some views of the site from Monroe Street and Howard Avenue. The proposal is to extend the C44L zoning district that exists to the north of the site along the Broadway transit corridor. And the reason for the proposal is that the existing R6B zoning district doesn't match existing conditions. R6B is intended to preserve traditional row houses, and they're commonly with stoops and small front yards. Instead, the area is more related to the adjacent C44L district to the north. The existing structures in the area are multifamily and commercial. Also, the site is adjacent to a commercial and transit corridor along Broadway, opposite an institutional use, also within view of the elevated subway. So the proposed rezoning would allow for a transition from the mixed-use commercial transit corridor to the residential district in the adjoining CR6B area. And in addition, as I mentioned earlier, it would bring the floor area of buildings on Lot 39 and 43 into compliance. So the proposed development consists of about 36,000 square feet in floor area. That's 4.5 FAR. It'll be a 6-story building with 7,000 square feet of retail use and 29,000 square feet of residential use. It'll be a total of 30 dwelling units constructed on this vacant lot. Depending on the option that is selected, it will contain 8 to 11 affordable units. Option 1 would require 25% of residential floor area at 60% AMI with at least 10% affordable at 40% AMI. Or option 2 would require at least 30% of residential floor area at 80%, average of 80% AMI. The building will also include approximately 1,800 square feet of outdoor recreation space, and that'll be located on the roof of the 1st story at the rear of the building. There's no parking required for the building. It's located within a transit zone. So no accessory off-street parking is required for the income-restricted units, and accessory parking spaces required for 30% of the remaining units is waived because less than 15 spaces is required.
Zorantia, I just realized that this isn't a team presentation because there's only one presenter, so if you could wrap up.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I just have one conclusory statement to make. In closing, the proposal will facilitate development on vacant land and will provide affordable transit-oriented housing and space for local retail that will serve the neighborhood.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Delahoo's.
Hi, how are you? How long has the owner owned the property?
They acquired the property in 2003.
Okay, so quite a while. And were there originally plans to just build as of right, or?
As of right wasn't economically feasible for them. If you did an as of right building mixed use, it would only amount to about 11 units.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And can you talk a little bit about the rationale behind mapping both MIH options 1 and 2, given the AMI levels in Community Board 3 in Brooklyn and where the development team might be leaning?
Yeah, so this is an area of rapid population growth and lower median income when you compare it to the city. And so originally it was proposed to use option 2. And the community board was supportive of that because it would allow for a higher number of units. We went up to 11 affordable units, and then ultimately their recommendation was to use option 1. And so the developer is prepared to work with the council member to determine the appropriate option to use here.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the recommendation that we have both from the community board and the borough president is for MIH option 1. I'm sure folks would love 30% at MIH option 1, but that's probably what they were indicating.
Yes.
Vice Chair Knuckles?
Yeah, I was looking actually for another rendering. Do you have another rendering of the rear side of the building?
We have a floor plan here. If that helps. We also have renderings that show it within the context of the neighborhood. Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Levin?
So actually, I do have a question about that, which is that both the community board and the borough president were quite understandably concerned about the height of this building in relationship to the other typical R6B buildings on the block. I think you did an excellent job of explaining the possibilities of this corner location as a transition, sort of bridging two scales. Of course, the 6 stories, the 6 stories height shown here is possible under the zoning, but it's also possible that, particularly on the adjacent, the out parcels that are being rezoned, something quite a bit larger, taller could get built. Could you describe to us or how we can be reasonably assured that this is the height of the building? Well, I mean, what do you say to the community board and the borough president who want a 65-foot height limit here?
Well, a 6-story building is the most efficient building that could be built on these lots, and that's what would be projected for the middle lot, which is the only one that has any real potential for development. The corner lot is already overbuilt, and it's not expected to be redeveloped. So on the development site, all the available floor area except for 800 feet was utilized in this design. It's the most efficient design, and it wouldn't be cost effective to add another story to the building. There's also the transition rule under zoning that within 25 feet of the R6B, you couldn't exceed 65 feet. So it makes the 6-story buildings construction, the envelope, the most feasible for these sites.
Okay, and the borough president's concern that the middle site could end up with an 11-story building, is that a concern we should worry about?
The maximum they could go is 9 stories. Under zoning, they would be restricted to the R7A bulk limitations. And again, we wouldn't expect that anything taller than 6 stories would be constructed because that's the most efficient way to build these buildings.
Okay, so the same logic that your client has used on the development site would also likely apply.
That's right.
In the middle. Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Ms. Orentia.
All right, thank you.
There are no other speakers signed up. However, if anyone is interested in speaking, now would be the time. This public hearing is closed.
Borough of Manhattan, calendar numbers 31 and 32, calendar number 31, CD9, C190127, PQM, calendar number 32, C190128, HAM. A public hearing in a matter of applications for acquisition of property, UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property concerning 437 West 126th Street.
We'll have a team presentation, a 10-minute team presentation by Kevin Paris and Jerry Salama.
Good morning, Chair Largo, members of the Planning Commission. Here we go. As stated, my name is Kevin Paris. I'm the Deputy Director for Manhattan Planning at HPD. I'm joined here with Jerry Salama, Principal of Janus Property Company. And we're here to discuss the Manhattanville Walkway ULIP application that's before you. There we go. So in 2001, HPD disposed of 433 West 126th Street and its adjacent vacant lot, as well as 7 other properties, to the Ecumenical Community Development Organization, acronym is ECDO, for the rehabilitation of these sites for affordable housing. ECDO has, since that time, rehabilitated all of the sites, and they have maintained the affordability as per the current regulatory agreement that they have with HPD. Janus Property Company is a company that has been based within the immediate area of this community for the last 25 years, and they have spearheaded an economic redevelopment of this area that Jerry will go into shortly in this presentation. Part of this economic redevelopment of the area is the creation of these pedestrian pathways or walkways, and Janus seeks to purchase the vacant lot that's adjacent to one of the ECDO buildings. They're purchasing it for $50,000, and the plan is to transform this underutilized lot into a vibrant open space that's going to transform the area, and it's also going to work with the overall redevelopment vision that Janus Property has for the area. So just a little bit of the specifics. This vacant lot is a private lot, and it's bound by a current regulatory agreement. Therefore, in order to facilitate this transaction between ECDO and Janus, HPD has to go through a number of actions. We need to acquire the vacant lot and map it as a UDAP area and then dispose of it to Janus. The acquisition and disposition are going to be simultaneous actions that happen at closing. As part of that, we are also going to restrict this vacant lot to open space and recreational activities. If there's at any such time that Janus seeks to do anything other than that for the vacant lot, they would have to come back to HPD in order to do anything else other than those specific actions. So briefly, I want to turn it over to Jerry, who's going to walk through a little bit of the Manhattanville Factory District, and then we'll be available to answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
Good morning, Chair Lago and members of the Commission. I'm Jerry Salama from the Janus Property Company. As Kevin mentioned, my office is based on 127th Street for the last 25 years. We are developers in this community and have started in affordable housing and have now transitioned into redevelopment of commercial and life science buildings all around this neighborhood. Most of the buildings that we've purchased over the years have been abandoned for 40 years. The Mink building was an old first storage warehouse. The Malt building was an old brewery. Tasty building was an old bakery that's been closed down for 40 years that we purchased through a competition of the New York City Economic Development Commission and has been sponsored by the New York State Empire State Development Corp. I don't know how to click. If you could help me, please. Thank you. This is just an area map of the buildings that we are involved with. So that includes some of our affordable housing and our commercial developments. The buildings all around us are affordable housing projects built by ECDO, Ecumenical Community Development Organization. To the south of us on 125th Street, on either side of that red spot, which is the ULIRP action requested, and they own between 1 and 2. So between ECDO and Janus, we've been involved all through these buildings in this neighborhood. Rather than just build individual buildings, we have looked to master plan our project to create a campus. We are cutting through green walkways through all of our private buildings. So from 125th Street through 126th Street at Janus Tasty, we will put a walkway. We're proposing to do that in the action for the ULIRP, as well as between numbers 4 and 5 on the map that would go into a courtyard behind. As you know, this area is very quiet and desolate, and we're trying to activate this, create places for the community to be able to sit, to eat, to read, to talk, have places where, as we now try to attract not-for-profit and for-profit companies to move in here, that their employees would have places to recreate and to eat. We are also looking to create as much ground floor retail space, and restaurants have built restaurant ducts into our building to facilitate food services because our neighborhood is really a food desert. We have just started on the design. We've hired Terrain Work as our landscape architect, and it is not just this 1,600-foot lot, where we are looking to design all of the green spaces to be a consistent community welcoming space where you can sit. There will be hardscape, plantings, shade, seating areas. There would be gates so that at the evenings, for security, they could be closed to protect people and to make sure there isn't noise for neighbors in the uses of those spaces. And so Terrain Work will be now moving to the landscape design. And 11 Betts Architects, who's designing Tasty Building for us, will design the signage, and then Bliss Fassman, our lighting designer, will design the lighting, which will be not just for this one lot, but for all the greenways that we are creating through all of our private buildings. The space that we're talking about here will be managed and maintained by the same staff that will be doing the other green spaces. So we will set the hours and maintenance as well through that same staff when we open all the buildings. Kevin and I are happy to take questions about this proposal.
Questions? Commissioner Knight.
Hi, Jerry. Can you give us an update on the Tasty Bakery project?
Please come take a tour, all of you. You won't believe this. This was a 40-year abandoned building that is now under construction. It's 8 months into construction. It will be done November of 2020. It was very difficult to raise financing, as you might imagine, in this community, and we were able to get JP Morgan to partner with us to build this as a speculative commercial and life science building. It is a gorgeous building, 350,000 rentable square feet, and we are just starting now on the marketing and the leasing that we will try to do outreach. It'll be a combination of 1.5 FAR for community facility, 5.0 commercial and life sciences, and we have designed it with all the infrastructure to be a life science building that if a company does come, we can do it. If not, it'll be commercial or educational or any community facility that is viable for it. But I really would love to take all of you for a tour to see the transformation. We're also building the Malt House across the street, which Commissioner Knuckles knows from his time at UMass. It is now 3 months from completion. So.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Long time coming.
Long time, thank you.
Commissioner Delos.
Thanks for the presentation. It was really helpful to kind of see that this is really part of a larger plan, and that I think makes it a lot more sustainable, honestly. I'm wondering if you could, either Kevin or if you could speak a little bit about what kind of restrictions there might be on the hours. You mentioned that perhaps for security reasons it might be closed. I'm just wondering if the city has a perspective on that, if the original disposition had language in it about open, the time that spaces would be open to the public. Obviously, things are fenced. Right. It's not open now for sure. So, so any information about HPD's perspective on that would be helpful.
The original disposition was there was no restriction as far as use. This was just considered a vacant lot. So that's why through these actions, we want to actually put in place the restriction of open space or recreational uses at this location. As far as hours, I think it's still a conversation that we're having with Janice, Jerry Janice. We got some substantial feedback from the community board when we were there. They gave us sort of a different way to look at it as far as not just having set hours, but having it available even during off hours because of people who are coming off of work, ensuring that it's still open for those who may work late. So we're taking all that feedback in, and before we get to a closing, we'll get to a place where we'll have some hours that can work for all people involved.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Hi, good morning. I also shared some of the questions and concerns about the hours and just assurances that, there will be a certain minimum, perhaps, number of hours in which this would be available to the public in the days and times. And to the extent that we can, secure, true public access through this disposition, I think that would be very important.
Yes.
So thank you.
We're working towards that.
Commissioner Levin.
So do I take it that the restriction to open space and recreation use eliminates the concern that the community board and the borough president had about, I mean, there was some talk of having a cafe or a other private use in there that would get in the way of public use. Has that possibility now been eliminated?
And maybe I may need just a little bit more detail as far as just restricting where it's not open to the public.
Well, there was mention in our briefing materials about the possibility of having a cafe there. So it's a very small space, and you can imagine that a cafe would take over everything. That would limit the welcoming nature of this space to passersby. And I think it will also have some concerns about quality of life for the folks who live in the apartments that overlook the open space. Right. So is that still something to worry about, or is this restriction to open space and recreation
I can address this, and then Kevin, you can add as well.
Prevent that from happening?
What was discussed with the community board and with the borough president is that we are hoping to attract restaurants across the street at Tasty. And that if there were a request from a cafe to put tables and chairs for people to bring whatever they're eating to sit there, that would be what it would be. It would not be a physical structure of a cafe. It would be, in addition to the benches, there might be portable tables, whether it's next door to Tasty in that one or the one that goes through Malt House, just to open it as an option of places where people could sit and eat. And it wouldn't be closed to cafe customers. It would be anyone could come and sit and eat at those tables. Again, we have no people here. We're trying to activate and live and create uses that people find interesting and attractive, and that when prospective tenants come, they can see our vision that it will be a place where people want to be and will sit and eat. And so it's not a closed private structure cafe. It's
okay. That was the concern. Wanting to be sure that over time that is not does not remain as a possibility.
Right, and it doesn't. And if there was to ever be some idea of doing any sort of construction, it's not something that can be done without coming back to HPD for further review of that proposal. Okay,
so that's I think an improvement in the way it was originally presented to us. So thanks for that. And the borough president also raised a question that I think is probably on several of our minds. In other projects, we've seen HPD and the city move more toward disposition with 99-year, very long-term leases, but retaining city ownership of these properties. You indicated that it's proposed that this property be sold for $50,000. Right. I'm wondering why you went that route, and why, since we do contemplate having some continuing restrictions on use, why we wouldn't do that by way of, retaining city ownership, so that we know that city is always involved.
So again, this site is a private site. The reason why it's coming through HPD is because it's still within a regulatory agreement with HPD for the affordable housing piece.
Oh, it's already been disposed.
Right, this has already been disposed. This is why we have the acquisition action. We need to actually acquire the site back to facilitate the sale between Janus and Ecto. So this is a negotiated deal between Janus and Ecto, and HPD's portion is to allow that sale to happen through these actions.
Okay, so it might be a different story if
this was a city-owned property.
City-owned piece.
Exactly. I think we'd have a different conversation if this was already a city-owned property.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yeah, I don't have the briefing materials in front of me, so I was just wondering, this looks like a section. So what would the enclosures be on either side of the park? Are they gates, and what's the height?
So the lot is only 29 feet wide, so you're looking at a section. There's a building in front, the triangle building that meets 126 and 127 is in front of it. What the landscape designers come up with as the initial concept is 2 fixed gates on either side, and then the 2 in the middle would roll open for 14-foot opening, half of the width down the hardscape walkway down the middle. We have to make sure that works, and we're looking at the same designs for Tasty, which is a 30-foot wide landscape as well, how we would open it, and with snow, be able to roll the gates and make sure they always stay open and not swing them into the space, because it would eat up the space if we stuck a 7-foot gate into it. So we're trying to open and maximize. Roll them as much as possible just to keep it open, but be able at night to secure them.
And approximately how high would?
I think it'd be 8 feet. I think that's the maximum that's allowed under code. And try to make it as simple and as clean as possible so that it seems open even when it's closed, that it's not, we don't want a fence or, sense that way, a forbidding sense, but be open visually by making the openings as much as open as possible.
So Janice would operate the park, your staff would?
We don't call it a park, unless we.
Right, forgive me.
Yes, the landscape walkway would be operated as part of all of. We would open everything to invite community folks and tenants and neighbors, and everybody into all of them. Yes.
Right.
Other questions? Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And these are the only folks who are signed up to speak on the item, but as always, if anyone is interested, please come forward. Public hearing is closed.
Borough of Manhattan, calendar numbers 33 and 34. Calendar number 33, CD11, C190235ZMM. Calendar number 34, N190236ZRM. A public hearing in the matter of applications for a zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning the East Harlem neighborhood rezoning.
The commission had a presentation on this at review session. We have one speaker in opposition, Eli Kim.
Hello, my name is Eli Kim, and
If you could, Madam Secretary, until the digital presentation comes up, if you could reset the clock.
Reset the clock. Okay.
Okay.
All right. My name is Eli Kim, and I am a first-generation Korean American. Since 1981, my family has owned and operated Raysol Drugs, an independent community pharmacy on the southwest corner of East 116th Street and Lexington Avenue. My father and I, both pharmacists, work side by side there every day, managing both the pharmacy and the property ourselves. The property I'm referring to includes the entire single-story area of the corner, which includes Raysol Drugs, as well as the 4 stores along 116th Street and 3 stores along Lexington Avenue, for a total footprint of 8,000 square feet. You can see the site there, the entire 1-story area. And as you can see, the other 3 corners of the intersection are currently occupied by 4 or 5-story mixed-use residential buildings, none of which are currently feasible development sites. I think it's immediately clear that any talk of development on this intersection is referring to our site and our site alone. Unfortunately, due to circumstances out of our control, the days of operating a community pharmacy profitably seem to be limited, or numbered, sorry. So we've been looking at our options for this property. Until recently, it seemed as though development was the best option for all involved. A potential building here would benefit us as a family as we exit our primary business, but also create 1 or 2 stories of valuable retail space with potential community usage. And with a 30% mandatory inclusionary housing allotment, the neighborhood would gain valuable affordable housing. Proposals we have received have estimated that 100 residential units could be built here. However, recent proposals have derailed our plans. My request today is that the Commission disapprove the action that would require the subway entrances at this intersection to be placed inside of any new construction. We have consulted with developers and architects, all of whom have quoted the cost of this addition in the millions, and it is a cost that makes development impossible for us. It was already a daunting and extremely risky project for us, but this proposal now adds a very large expense, potential delays due to MTA bureaucracy, as well as lost square footage and street frontage from the ground floor retail, which severely impacts revenue. The proposal also impacts the valuation of the property. Selling was always an unlikely scenario, but we didn't hold on to this property for 40 years just to sell it at a price we could have received 10 to 15 years ago. Our recent bids have reflected the cost of the subway entrance and lost retail space, and they are numbers that simply do not make sense for us financially. This basically leaves us with one option, which is to lease the entire space to a credit tenant or chain store, such as a CVS, who would take it for no less than 20 years. This, of course, would mean no development at all, no affordable housing, and the displacement of large number of minority small businesses, not to mention that the subway entrance would remain as is indefinitely.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Questions? Commissioner Delahoo's.
First, thank you very much for being here, and for a pharmacist, you're doing a very good job of explaining land use actions. You really are. What is your understanding of how much of the development site an MTA entrance would occupy?
That actually remains to be seen, but if ADA compliance is also required, it would require a staircase plus the elevator. And I really couldn't tell you exactly how many square feet, but it seems to be pretty significant.
Okay.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Sir, do you know the approximate size of the footprint of your parcel?
It's 8,000 square feet.
8,000 square feet. And what is
8,500.
8,500. And what is the current zoning?
It was just recently changed to an R 8.5 effective R9, I believe. And it only affects those four corners.
All right.
Even a half a block over, everything changes. It's, yeah.
Commissioner Levin.
Yeah, you mentioned that you had information about the cost of including the entrance and the loss of the commercial space. Are you able to give us any more details on that?
Well, because I don't know the size of the, or the footprint of the subway entrance, I can't
what might be
calculate the
required,
retail.
yeah.
But, I mean, one developer quoted it at a cost of $5 million, which seems extremely high, but that's what they quoted me. And it really just comes down to the extra added cost of having the MTA build out that portion themselves. And just everything's more expensive with the MTA and slower.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Certainly aware of that. Yeah, so your message for us is that your family is very interested in redeveloping this corner, but that the addition of this requirement that the subway station be integrated poses great difficulties for your development plans. Is that the gist of it?
yes, it completely disincentivizes it for us, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for making a really effective presentation. We appreciate it.
I want to echo that thank you for bringing this to our attention. Obviously, we are looking at what was possible before the rezoning, after the rezoning, and the good planning rationale of looking ahead to the 2nd Avenue subway extending. I think that we will get more information and then come back to the commission at the post-hearing review session. But again, thank you, and if you would make sure that the secretary has a copy of your presentation.
Thank
you. And thank you, Mr. Kim.
Contact information.
Now, there are no other speakers signed up, but if anyone else would want to be heard, please come forward. This public hearing is closed.
Borough of Queens, calendar number 35, CD 13, C180517, MMQ, a public hearing in the matter of an application for a city map amendment concerning the JFK North site.
Our first speaker is Eileen Gorsuch.
Madam Secretary, I'm recused on this matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Knight.
Good morning. My name is Eileen Gorsuch. I work in the planning department at the New York City Economic Development Corporation. Thank you for the opportunity to present a proposal for a city-owned site located north of JFK Airport. The city is proposing to dispose of a portion of this site to Bartlett Dairy and Food Service, a local family-owned distribution company, so that they can develop a new facility that will bring over 160 jobs back to the city. The site is located north of JFK Airport between Nassau Expressway and Rockaway Boulevard. As shown in yellow, the site is irregularly shaped, approximately 8.7 acres, and is located within an M11 zoning district, which has a maximum FAR of 1 for commercial and industrial uses. The site is currently indicated on the city map as an unbuilt portion of the Nassau Expressway. It is vacant aside from a small Con Ed substation that would remain on site under an easement. The immediate area surrounding the site is characterized by industrial and commercial uses along Rockaway Boulevard. Our proposed action is a demapping action, which would change the city map to reflect existing conditions. The action would allow a disposition of the site. The city would retain 2.6 acres, and the remainder would be sold to Bartlett Dairy to develop a new warehouse building with office space, as well as an auto repair shop that would total just over 54,000 square feet of new development. This is a site plan for the Bartlett site. It would include the warehouse there and a repair shop. The proposed action required the preparation of an environmental assessment statement, which determined that the project would not have an impact on the environment. To give you some background, EDC released an RFEI for the site in the spring of 2015 with the goal to bring industrial or commercial uses to the JFK IBIT area and to support job-intensive uses on the site. Bartlett Dairy was selected in the spring of 2016. Bartlett is a New York-based family-owned company that has been located in Queens since 1968. They were formerly located at the Elmhurst Dairy site in Jamaica, but were forced to relocate when the facility closed in 2016. They distribute dairy and perishable foods to schools and businesses. Their largest contracts are the New York City Department of Education, the Archdiocese, and Starbucks. Bartlett was chosen as their proposal would contribute an industrial use to an already industrial area. Their new facility would bring back 165 jobs, approximately 50% of which would be union jobs. So these would be good jobs with average annual salaries of around $70,000. Bartlett is also committed to hire NYC and to a 25% MWBE goal, but they will also provide their own extensive training to their employees. This is an illustrative rendering of what the site might look like. And lastly, a timeline. We hope to conclude ULURP in the summer and then close this fall.
Perfect timing. I'll also note that Ms. Gorsuch is joined by her colleague Jennifer Cohen for questions. Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes, when you say bring back, what was it, 165 jobs, what do you mean bring back?
So they were previously located at Elmhurst Dairy in Jamaica, and because their lease expired and the Elmhurst Dairy was no longer producing or processing milk there, they are now a nut milk manufacturer. They had to leave that site and relocate. And so I believe, and we have members of the Bartlett team here that can speak more to that, but they were relocated to, I believe, their Newark location.
Will there be any new jobs created as a result of this construction?
We anticipate about 20 construction jobs would be created.
I meant permanent jobs within Bartlett.
Permanent jobs, initially, it will probably be the 165, but Bartlett is interested in expanding, and Jennifer Cohen can speak more to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this had come up last time we were in front of you. Bartlett is consistently looking for new opportunities for expansion and looking for acquisitions, as well as generically finding new business opportunities. There is some limited room for growth for Bartlett on the site and on the building that they're going to be constructing. And then the city is holding back that 2.6 acres, and we have been having active conversations with Bartlett about potentially giving them access to that site for when they're prepared to expand their business operations in Queens.
Other questions? Commissioner Levin.
Yeah, I'm wondering who gets credit for the really excellent name of the entity that's been set up to do this, Jug Handle Realty. Does that have to do with the expressway off-ramp, or does it have to do with milk, or maybe both?
A little bit of both. You guys can speak to it.
We'll be hearing from those who will know the answer.
Yeah.
Other questions? Commissioner Ortiz.
I'm just curious, could you talk about the rationale for retaining those 2+ acres?
Sure.
It sounds like you're in negotiation, so why wasn't that just part of the original deal?
Yeah. Originally, when the RFEI was released, we also got a response from the adjacent parcel owner who had developed the FAA building. So at one point, we had contemplated selling the two sites to two separate developers. Negotiations with the other developer sort of fell through, but we maintained the 2.6 acres since Bartlett had already developed a site plan that worked on the parcel that they that we were selling to them. And more recently, as Bartlett was sort of looking at their future growth plans, they realized they might actually want and need that space. So we've transitioned into having conversations with them about their use, but we don't plan to sell them that site until they have sort of firm plans for expansion. And once they are ready to actually either build additional facilities there or bring additional jobs and work to that site, then we would be prepared to move forward with them.
Other questions? I wondered why this was structured as a sale rather than a 99-year lease, which I thought had become EDC's policy.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was done prior to that becoming EDC's policy, and the reason we opted to keep going down the land sale path, Bartlett's a small business owner, they're not a real estate developer, and they had just come off this kind of difficult and frustrating experience with Elmhurst Dairy where they were kind of abruptly forced to relocate. So EDC felt that it was important that we actually sell the site to Bartlett so that they could feel secure and have a sense of permanence in their ownership of the land and their ability to grow on that site. Understanding that we've transitioned to ground leases, the deal does have a mechanism so that if the site is ever used for a non-industrial, non-distribution use, EDC or the city have an opportunity to recapture some of that value. On top of which, we're only selling a very limited number of air rights and development rights to the developer. So should they ever want to build more, or anyone at any point want to build more on the site, they do have to come back to the city. And so we have an opportunity to capture some value there as well.
And when you say come back to the city for an additional disposition, or is this disposition of the full air rights?
This is disposition of the full site, not the full air rights.
Okay, so it would require another ULURP to sell the additional air rights?
No. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Because it sounds more like it's an economic deal rather than a land use deal.
The air rights would only be, so this action would allow disposition of all air rights, all property rights.
Yeah, but there would be a required additional environmental review in order to sell, for them to build with additional air rights that they would have to bring on the site. Is that right?
Again, I don't see why, if the number of air rights are restricted, the argument about the certainty isn't resonating. A 99-year lease is certainty. We have the Chrysler building built on a 99-year ground lease.
Yeah, and I think one of the primary differences is that the Chrysler building and other buildings and deals that we do on 99-year ground leases are done with real estate developers who really understand how the real estate markets work, whereas Bartlett is primarily a dairy distribution company. And so the idea here was to give them a site that they could own and that they could use to help themselves grow within Queens.
And then with respect to the other air rights, though?
The other air rights, so that's just an opportunity that if Bartlett were to ever sell the site and a developer wanted to do something different, non-industrial use, they would have to come back to the city and we would be able to capture value. So,
but there would be no land use review for it.
Oh, yeah.
There would be no new action that would require a land use review.
Commissioner Ortiz.
I understand you mentioned trying to make this simple and clear cut in terms of the acquisition. Is there any reason to conclude that structuring this as a ground lease would prevent this deal from going through?
I don't know that it would be impossible to do so. I think particularly as it relates to the sale of air rights, it's simpler to do that when there is a land sale versus under a ground lease terms. But, EDC can handle complicated deals.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. But I think we felt that given our partner in this one, that it felt that a land sale was an appropriate way to move forward.
Commissioner Dweck.
I'll just chime in from a small business side and say that perhaps there is some merit to the thought that a small business like Bartlett would be able to use their equity in their real estate to finance their operations and growth, as opposed to a real estate developer who is pretty savvy to cash flows and terms and so forth and so on. These guys might be coming back to a bank one day and financing out part of the building so they can expand or buy an additional company or additional line. So there might be some merit to the sense to that argument in this case. I would just give credence to that.
Commissioner Delahoo's.
So I just want to make sure I understand if Bartlett were to sell in the future, so basically EDC is maintaining a first right of refusal? Is that what's happening?
It's not a first right of refusal, but if Bartlett were to sell or to use the site for a non-industrial use, there is participation that EDC would get for any upside in the value that would come from the site not being restricted to industrial.
And as opposed to potentially acquiring it and then continuing the use that would be consistent with whatever the city's particular goals are at that time.
Right, so if Bartlett continues to use it for industrial use or sold to another industrial user, we believe that the same restrictions that we've put in place would continue to exist. If Bartlett were to sell to a user who wanted to use the site for something other than industrial or distribution use, then the city would be able to see the value or take part in that upside of the value that would come from that.
But if the original intent is to support industrial use, then there could be a rationale for making sure that that is, if it were to be sold in the future, that it continues at the very least to be that use. And so the city, the primary public policy goal then is about maintaining industrial jobs, rather than, getting however much money in the future if it were to be changed in use. So I would, obviously I think we'll talk more about this in review session, but at the very least, I think there's a way to perhaps balance what you all have developed in the discussions with Bartlett with a more consistent public policy goal of, if it were to be sold in the future, at least maintaining the use and the intention of having a job generating focus.
Absolutely, and just so there is a 25-year use restriction on the site to industrial.
Again, the difference between 25 and 99. I guess the other question is, what is your understanding under the current zoning of what non-industrial, non-distribution production uses are permitted on the site?
Sure. The deed restriction is actually restricted to specifically industrial and distribution and excludes the specific use groups. Like there's no and I apologize, I don't know exactly what we exclude, but there's no self-storage that would be allowed. There's no hotel use. It's very restrictive in terms of being for industrial and distribution.
No, but my question is, what does the underlying zoning allow, since after the 25-year period, it could be changed by a payment to EDC, which, again, the important for EDC to have financial stake, but that's not what we consider as a land use rationale.
So you're asking what the underlying zoning would allow. It has a 2.4 community facility FAR, which is allowed under M11.
Okay. Other questions? Commissioner Levin.
Yeah, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, but this is an important conversation. I'm wondering also if it would be possible for us to have a bit clearer understanding of what the land use restrictions are in your current deal and how they're being implemented. Seeing them on paper would be helpful, I think. Recognizing this is a site adjacent to JFK, what thinking on, and obviously Bartlett, I assume, doesn't, I mean, adjacency to JFK is probably not that important to Bartlett. How important was that to EDC in starting this process to select a developer?
Sure, I think what is very convenient for Bartlett on this site is adjacency to highways and vehicular transit. So it's less about JFK explicitly and the airport and more about the location.
Okay, but are you concerned about losing this site for JFK proximate needs that may arise in the future? Obviously not, because you're pursuing the deal, but can you share your thinking on that?
I wasn't here at the time of selection, but I think the underlying thought process was bringing back a company to Queens that had been located here for a long time and lost the space, and there aren't that many opportunities for industrial development to come back to the city, so this was a great opportunity to do so.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yeah, I was just wondering what is the amount of the air rights that the city is retaining in this deal, approximately?
Yeah, it's pretty significant. So we're selling them about 55,000 square feet of air rights, and the site itself, I don't have the number offhand, but is a couple 100,000.
If you could submit that, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
I would also note, as to Commissioner Levin's question, that the proximity to the airport makes the site particularly valuable, again, arguing for the city leasing it very long-term, but we anticipate that the airport is going to be there for decades to come. Commissioner Ortiz, Commissioner Rumpershot, I'm sorry.
I'm just going to change gears. I just noticed on the site plan, I see there's this area designated for Con Ed transformer. Does Con Ed have any plans of expanding that area, and what's the square footage of that fenced-in area?
Yeah, I think we'll have to get back to you on the square footage, but that transformer has been there, we think, since the 1950s. There's no documentation or anything. They're basically squatting on the site, so they will remain on site. We have been negotiating an easement so that they will have continued access over the portion that will become or would become Bartlett's property.
Other questions? Okay, we'll welcome getting more specific information about square footage and also seeing our focus is on land use, so the land use restrictions.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Scott Grimm-Lyon, and he will be joined for questions by Joseph Pakin, Robert Patrizio, and Thomas Malave.
Could I just clarify that the Bartlett team, who you just called, I guess I thought they would be asked questions during our presentation, so they don't have prepared statements. I just wanted to make you aware.
Great. Questions for the Bartlett team? Commissioner Delos, and thank you for coming.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming. Please understand the context of our questions are more about the land use pieces and not about the importance of dairy. I'm just wondering, given Commissioner Levin's questions, in particular pertaining to JFK, why you all thought this particular site was so ideal for your business operations, and if you do have any existing relationships, sales relationships with the airport or are intending to expand in that area.
So the main issue is finding a parcel large enough to house us. And we've been looking for years and years, and we moved part of the business to Newark in, what, 2016. Because we did not have enough space here in New York. And we've been looking in New Jersey, New York, trying to find something. This RFEI came up, we bid on it, we've been working on this for years. I mean, we started this search in 2009 looking for space. And so this is the first parcel we found in New York that would actually work for us. The other ones we found had serious environmental issues with $10 million of cleanup. So this one worked. It's on the highway, which is really important for us as a blank slate, so we can build it in a way that's efficient, that looks good to the community, that looks good to us. And I'm just going to digress for a second because you've been asking about why it's a purchase versus a land lease. This started out, we're well over $1 million into this process. I don't know exactly how much, and tons of time. And it started out as a purchase because that's how it was done. And then when they came back and said, we'd like to switch this, they did. They approached us, said, we want to switch to a land lease. And I was just, we can't change. We're so invested in at this point, it's hard. And the financing that you raised is true. Because right now we're using the Newark facility to finance part of this, then we're going to have to use this to finance the rest of it. Because this is at the end of the day, it's going to cost about $20 million to get through it. So the lease will really hinder us in putting this project together. And all these people that are local in Queens that got relocated to New Jersey, hopefully are going to come back. And through all this, because we had this contract with the city, we rented a space in Jamaica to put our back office in, which is really too small, really inefficient, but we wanted to keep our people rather than move out of New York, because it is a New York-based company. They've been here forever, started by Tommy's father. It's a minority-owned business, and they like the area here. They like Queens. That's their base. So it's an important thing to come back here.
Commissioner Rumpershot.
Question, how many semi-trucks do you have, semi-tractor trailers or vehicles in your fleet right now? And do you have plans to expand that? And can the site handle that expansion if you're doing that?
All right, so Tommy can answer how many trucks, about 150, is that right?
About 150.
And the answer is, can the site handle all the trucks? No, because there's a facility in Newark, there's a facility in Rochester, there's going to be a portion of them here, and that 2.7 acres, if you saw the diagram, it's all designed for parking. And so we're negotiating with the EDC to have an option to buy that property because we do plan to expand. That was a question that was asked. We're constantly bidding on contracts. We just landed a major drug chain recently, and we're bidding on a major food service chain and if that comes in, all of a sudden we have 40 jobs or 50 jobs. And you don't know when that's going to happen because I'm not saying it's Burger King, but say Burger King comes out for a bid, and it's not. But I'm just saying they come out for bid, and we landed. All of a sudden, we have to capitalize, get 50 trucks, 50 employees, train the people, and we promote from within. People start as helpers. If they're good and they show up all the time, we actually train them to be a driver and sponsor them to get their CDL license, and they move up. And there's a lot of opportunity. In fact, we paid one person to go through college, right?
Yeah.
That is now logistics coordinator. Yeah. And so there's a lot of opportunity. People, and I've worked with Tommy since 1996. And when people, it's like a family. If somebody gets sick, they come to him, they help them. It's that type of place. He knows every single person there. I've been there on Fridays. Tom's outside barbecuing hamburgers and steaks for everybody that comes in, and it's true.
You might stop by.
No, you should. And Tom will be out there, and he'll have steaks and hamburgers, and people come out and they get their lunch, and he knows everybody by their first name, every employee. And there's several, 400.
There are closer to 500 now.
Close to 500 people. He knows everyone by their first name. So it's a really great place to work. Like I said, they're loyal to their people, and this is how the deal's structured. And this is a big, it's a big project for us to undertake. And we've been working on it, as you see, since 2015. And I can't tell you anymore. I think it's a great thing for Queens. It's a great company. It will grow. It has grown. It started out with Tom and one truck, right?
Yeah, one truck.
So.
Vice Chair Knuckles, did you have a question?
Well, yeah, my question, I think, which has been answered somewhat, was whether or not you intended to expand once you completed this deal. But secondly, I just think it important that the city try to find ways to retain employment of the kind that Bartlett provides. And just a question, are the people that you employ, do most of them reside in the local area, or where do they come from?
Most of them in Queens.
Mostly in Queens?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Levin.
Sorry, I just could use a little bit more narrative about how the business works. This is a distribution facility. Is merchandise moving in and out of here or using it?
Yes. Do you want to handle this?
What goes on?
Okay.
Yeah, so we bring milk down from 4 different milk processors in New York State and Pennsylvania. And it's 7 days a week it comes in at night. And then we reload it on smaller trucks and we deliver it to mom and pops, schools, some Starbucks that'll come out of there, but most of the Starbucks come out of, that's the trailers, big tractor trailers you might see in the streets. That's coming out of Newark right now.
Okay, and that's milk?
That's everything in the Starbucks store comes through us.
No kidding?
Yeah.
Bagels,
everything,
cookies?
the sandwiches, everything, the fresh sandwiches, everything.
Oh man, I'm going to think twice. Okay, so so you're out collecting this merchandise from various suppliers.
Yeah, they deliver it to us. Yeah.
So they deliver it.
They deliver it to us, and then we put it together by store number, and then we package it and put it on our trucks, and our trucks do the final mile. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so and that's all intended to go on inside this new facility.
Not all of it couldn't. It's not big enough.
No, but
yeah,
all of those functions will happen.
The non-Starbucks business, yeah, like the Board of Education, the mom and pops, the supermarkets and stuff like that. Yes.
Okay. All right.
The mostly milk-heavy part of the business. Yeah.
Good, but also all the stuff you're receiving is finished goods.
Finished goods, yes.
Milk in jugs,
Yes.
so that you can call this jug handle and.
Yeah. That was amazing when he did that. I tell you.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. I think it interestingly illustrates how a national chain still involves local employment in this way. We had never focused on that before. I also want to emphasize that our questions do not go to the support that we have for retaining a local business here. It is with respect to the additional air rights that are being transferred and not being used by the business. Other questions?
Those air rights aren't being transferred, they're retaining those air rights.
Yes, no,
It's 150 or 160,000 that are retained.
No, I understand, but that we would be authorizing the disposition of them without condition. Other questions? Thank you very much. And again, thank you for taking time off from the business to show up. It was very helpful. Those are the only folks who are, oh, yes. And yours, sir?
That's okay. My name is Scott Grimlyon. I'm the Executive Director of the Gateway JFK Industrial Business Improvement District. I got a little confused because their names were put on the list of mine.
Welcome.
Great. Bartlett Dairy is a property that's adjacent to our district, and we're pleased to express support in favor of the development of the parcel at the intersection of Nassau Expressway and Rockaway Boulevard. We're an industrial business improvement district that's dedicated to making the area a clean and safe space to live in, work in, and invest in. We partner with local businesses and the community members to provide effective advocacy and supplemental services to businesses in the area. We believe that their core business of running a warehouse for the distribution of milk and other products to groceries, schools, and hotels fits well within the pre-existing context of businesses in the neighborhood, which is currently populated with 600 businesses, and many of them do have a specific connection to JFK and provide logistical support to JFK. We believe that the development will have minimal impact on existing traffic patterns in the neighborhood, as the proposed development includes ample parking for the site, employees and trucks. It has clear entrances and exits directly onto existing roadways. And we believe that the design and aesthetics of the area will help the development, which will include a modern facility, ample parking, and attractive fence with landscaping, and they will all act as a prominent example to inspire future investment and revitalization in the area. That also plays a little bit to the question about logistics use and potential connections to the airport. We are a 215-acre industrial business zone in the area, and most of our building stock is over 40 years old. We really want to see developments like Bartlett come into the community to encourage existing property owners, to let them know that there is activity in the area, that there is a potential for investment and for ways to make money. And we believe that through examples like Bartlett, we can have others within those 215 area zones who already have pre-existing tenants who work in the logistics field expand their businesses and strengthen those connections to the airport.
Thank you. How many employees are there in your IBZ?
There's about 8,000 employees.
Other questions? Commissioner Ortiz.
Hi, Scott. Just
Hello.
Since you're here and the question came up a little earlier, I mean, the proximity to the airport, clearly suggests that, and we'd like to grow businesses that are connected to the logistics of the airport. Notably, this business is there because of the connection to the interstate highway system. As you think ahead to other opportunities, I mean, how much of a priority is the logistics piece and the connection to the airport over other kinds of industrial activity?
Overall, it's a high priority, but we have to also remember that we're within the context right now of a $13 billion reinvestment in the airport as a whole. And what's not talked about, in any of the newspaper articles or much in any of the state reports related to the redevelopment is that there's a proposed reselling of most of the North Cargo area within, not reselling, the Port Authority is working to redevelop the North Cargo area of the airport to include more efficient logistical uses there. There was a report put out by EDC in 2013, which was actually the impetus for creating our business improvement district. And it discussed how JFK has fallen in the rankings nationally related to our standing related to air cargo. And we are here, of course, to help strengthen and expand that. All that is happening, of course, in spite of
e-commerce and air cargo as a whole industry expanding. So the Port Authority does see a opportunity to expand that and improve efficiencies in the middle of this redevelopment process. There is a lot of space on Port Authority property that could also be used in these for logistics support, and in many of the top airports for air cargo nationwide, not nationwide, excuse me, internationally. When you look at your your Frankfurts, you look at your Hong Kong, you look at your Heathrows. A lot of the activities that are being currently done off airport and are requiring multiple truck trips back and forth, not even for a mile, but for a quarter of a mile, are all being done on airport property. And then there are still adjacent and robust industrial businesses that are airport related. Long term, I foresee that there will be less truck traffic going to and from the airport for redundant uses that can happen on airport property as the airport redevelops.
Got it. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you for giving us insights into a rather unique bid that you have there.
Thank you.
Okay, so now that is the only folks who have signed up, but if anyone wanted to be heard, please come forward. This public hearing is closed.
Borough of Queens, calendar number 36, CD2, N180518ZRQ. A public hearing in the matter of an application for a zoning text amendment concerning manor products.
Okay, we are going to have a 10-minute presentation by an applicant team comprised of Rachel Scully, Robert Jagley, and Lawrence Weinstock.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Scull. I'm an associate at Greenberg Traurig. We represent Mana Products, one of the country's largest contract manufacturers of cosmetics. Mana conducts its operations at 2 locations in Long Island City, located approximately 3/4 of a mile apart. The first is 3202 Queens Boulevard on the right. It's located between Van Dam Street and 32nd Place. And the second location on the left is 2711 49th Avenue, referred to as Hunters Point, located at the corner of 27th Street and 49th Avenue, backing onto the Dutch Kills. As you will soon hear from Mana's representatives, operating in 2 separate locations is inefficient, and the company would like to enlarge its Hunters Point location by approximately 108,000 square feet in order to consolidate its manufacturing operations there. The consolidation would allow increased efficiency, increased production, and would allow the company to hire additional employees. The Hunters Point building obtained its first certificate of occupancy in 1965. Had it been constructed 4 years earlier, the zoning resolution would allow our proposed enlargement as of right. Consequently, because it was constructed in 1965, we were seeking a text amendment that would allow the 108,000 square foot enlargement. I'm joined today by Bob Jagley, Mana's Senior Vice President of Operations, who's here to help us answer questions. And now I'm going to turn it over to Larry Weinstock, Mana's VP of Finance, and he will tell you more about the company and its operations.
Thank you, Rachel. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Larry Weinstock. I've been the Vice President of Finance of Mana Products since 1993. Mana is a local manufacturer of cosmetics and healthcare products. It's privately held and family owned. One of the nation's largest and most well-known contract manufacturers. When we say contract manufacturer, there's actually 3 lines of business. Contract manufacturing, which is producing made-to-order products for other brands, makes up 75% of the business. Private label, which is putting specific salon labels on our own made-to-stock products, make up 10% of the company, and our own brands make up 15% of the company. The company was originally founded by Nikos Mouyaras. Nikos started as a bench chemist at Cheeseboro Ponds after obtaining degrees locally at St. John's and at Rutgers. 1 year after working at Cheeseboro Ponds, Nikos said, I know how to do this stuff. So he quit Cheeseboro Ponds, borrowed $6,000 from his brother. He bought chemicals He bought an osterizer, a small blender, and a table because he didn't have enough money for a chair. He then filled 10,000 pans of eyeshadow, put them in a briefcase, and went knocking door to door. That was 75. By 1978, he moved the business from Manhattan to the current Long Island City location on Queens Boulevard. 1984, he bought the 8-story building, 320,000 square feet. By 1998, we had outgrown the Queens Boulevard building, and then he purchased the second building, the Hunters Point building, at about roughly 220,000 square feet. The second building helped us to become much more efficient. Due to the more favorable layout, longer floors, we were able to manufacture horizontally rather than manufacturing vertically in the 8-story building. Currently, the manufacturing processes are split. At Queens Boulevard, we have research and development, we have product development, and we have the manufacture and storage of the formulas. At Hunters Point, we store the raw materials after they've been manufactured at Queens Boulevard. They're trucked over there. We assemble and package the finished goods, and we have some limited warehousing and shipping. The good news and the bad news is that we have continued to grow, and we have outgrown our ability now to efficiently use the current space as currently laid out, which hurts us competitively. We have fortunately experienced 9% annual compounded growth for the last 5 years and 8% annual compounded growth for the last 15 years. To best compete, we need more efficient manufacturing operations that can be consolidated into one larger location, allowing us to have a more efficient production line like our competitors do in New Jersey and in Westchester. New Jersey in particular has been very aggressive in courting us, offering low-cost areas to manufacture and substantial tax incentives to relocate. However, Manna has traditionally been very loyal to its employees, of which 92% of them live in New York City. And there are many, many long-term employees. I'm just about to complete my 26th year, and there are still 46 employees who have more tenure than me and call me the newbie. As of this past December, we had 840 full-time employees, roughly 2/3 of them at Hunters Point, 1/3 of them in Queens Boulevard. And we are a local Long Island City company. Over the last 8 years, Manna has provided $1.3 million in college scholarships to its own employees and the children of its own employees to get an education locally. Over the last 3 years, Manna has provided over $150,000 of college scholarships to LaGuardia college students. LaGuardia is right across the street, and we've entered into a partnership with LaGuardia, and we have an internship program with them. To remain in Long Island City and to remain competitive, we're looking to consolidate most of our manufacturing operations in the one Hunters Point facility. This proposal would allow us to consolidate and provide space for manufacturing growth. We would expect to further grow our full-time workforce by up to 25% over the next 5 years. Manna has been in Long Island City since 1978. Manna has been Long Island City property owner since 1984. Manna has invested in Long Island City and in the Long Island City people. Manna would like to stay in Long Island City. Please help us stay. Thank you.
Mr. Weinstock, are you continuing the presentation?
I was just going to walk you through the text amendment itself.
Great.
So skipping ahead a little bit to the text itself. So currently, Section 43-121 allows for the enlargement of manufacturing buildings constructed for manufacturing purposes prior to December 15th, 1961, by up to 150 feet of the building's existing floor area. The proposed text amendment would allow this provision to apply to buildings constructed for manufacturing use in an M32 district in Long Island City Community District 2 in a designated area set forth in Appendix J on properties larger than 2 acres, so this site, essentially. The proposed text amendment would allow for enlargement of Hunters Point by approximately 108,000 square feet. The expansion would take the form of this wedge that you see on the right. It'd be a horizontal expansion on 2 floors with a vertical expansion that sits slightly on top of the existing building. Shipping and receiving would be preserved on the ground floor underneath the wedge, and this would allow MANA to continue its operations while construction is going on, which is very important to the company. They cannot just stop manufacturing while this happens, so this is a very creative solution that the architect came up with. The resulting enlarged building would be up to approximately 322,000 square feet. And Queens Boulevard, meanwhile, would be converted to office space, and an affiliate of MANA would continue to own that building. And I'll just say we presented this at Community Board 2, and we're very excited to have their full support. It's great to see that they're excited about this project.
Thank you, Ms. Gall. And Mr. Weinstock, I was struck by your presentation that it could both be turned into a business school case study and also a riveting history of a family-owned company, so thank you. Questions? Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. You own both buildings, do you not? Or the Queens Boulevard building, you occupy 48% of it?
We, under umbrella, own both buildings. The family owns, for tax and legal exposure purposes, the family owns both buildings. The operating company, which is also owned by the family, is a separate legal entity, of course. But yes, all 3 properties are owned.
So with regard to, well, this isn't the, this is the expansion.
That's the Hunters Point one. That's not the Queens Boulevard one.
Okay, so what are your plans for the Queens Boulevard building?
Well, the Queens Boulevard building can be used solely for office space instead of for manufacturing. It's really not cut out for manufacturing because, again, of the vertical areas there. It's only 30,000 feet of square footage on each floor. So there's been plenty of office space, including New York City has rented well over 100,000 feet there in the past for 20 years for HRA, Human Resources, and TLC, Taxi and Limousine Commission.
Other questions? Commissioner Ortiz.
Hi, good morning. I was struck that you said that New Jersey has offered you substantial tax incentives and that you've chosen to remain in Long Island City, a little bit for, heartstrings, I guess. But I presume that there are other reasons, and I'm curious about the degree to which distribution to your market, provides more opportunities. As we think about the strength and the opportunities of industry and manufacturing in New York, proximity to market, I imagine, is one of the reasons why New York City remains a good location over New Jersey. And I'm curious if you have any insight into
New York City remains, or Long Island City remains a good choice for us because of the personalities involved. The owner who recently passed away lived right over the 59th Street Bridge, and was easy to come to work. And as I mentioned before, so many of the people that we have there are long-term employees, and we're in a knowledge business. We have knowledge of our customers, contract manufacturers, relationships going back 20, 30 years. We have knowledge of how to make the product there. We actually looked at other locations. The city was willing to offer us incentives to go to Brooklyn, and we were concerned about our employees. It would not be convenient for them to go to Brooklyn. And as you can tell by the scholarships that we've offered to our people and to our children of our people come first. And everyone has been here in this location since 1978, and we want to leverage that. We are our people, and they're most important to us. That's why we want to stay here. We are part of the fabric. Our people are part of the fabric, mostly Queens, some in Brooklyn. Everyone takes the 7 train. And we are a winning business because of our people. And we'll retain them by staying here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Levin.
Yeah, I used to work for one of your New Jersey competitors, so I have some appreciation for the challenges of the business, and perhaps also the logistics pull that more wide open spaces might provide for you. So it is truly a commitment to this neighborhood that you're willing to work through the challenges of working in a
Thank you, that is true.
dense location like this. I just wanted to say I was really taken with the letter from the president of LaGuardia Community College that was included in our package. If all local employers could tell a story, a workforce development and community support story like that, we'd be a much stronger city. So congratulations on that. You mentioned that the founder, owner recently passed away. Is there a second generation in the family involved? Is there a management transition going on?
There is a second
candidate
generation.
for a sale, or?
There is a second generation involved in the operating committee. That is true, but we are committed to be following the owner's vision. Very well known in the local community, in the national philanthropic community, in the Greek community, in the political community, and we are committed to just follow that vision and protect our customers and protect our employees.
Thank you.
Other questions? Then thank you for a compelling presentation.
Thank you.
And those are the only folks testified to who have signed up to speak. And seeing an empty room, I assume that there is no one else who is going to come forward. And so the public hearing is closed. And Madam Secretary, any other business?
No, Madam Chair.
So we are ending before noon. Thank you.